for tuning in to Skeptic Haven tonight. My name is AJ. Now, science is the use of evidence and reason to understand the world around us. Science helps us make sense of the things that don't quite make sense. But how science is communicated makes a huge difference in the way that humans grasp scientific concepts about physics, chemistry, biology, astrophysics, anthropology, and any of the other incredible science fields out there. Now, if you want to talk about science tonight, give us a call and let's talk.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
Hey, how's it going, Dave?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
To have you over here today.
Good to
Yeah,
be here.
it's our first time working together. So
Yeah.
let's I don't know if is it your first time on this show?
No, I don't think so. I don't recall. I mean, all of these call-in shows are kind of a blur to me. I think I've done this one. I've done like The Line a couple of times, and I kind of like forget who's who, but I don't. Yeah, I think I've done this before.
Fair enough, fair enough. And you know what? Maybe some of our viewers also don't remember seeing you or me or anybody. Like all of the shows kind of mesh together for everybody. So tell us real quick who you are and where can people find you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Dave Farina. I run a YouTube channel called Professor Dave Explains, which I've been running for almost for 11 years now. I can't believe how long it's been. It is mainly a very, very large database of academic tutorials for like high school and undergrad students and a variety of topics, mainly science, but I've been branching out over the years. And then also for about 5-6 years, I've been doing quite a lot of debunking content where I sort of go after frauds and charlatans and propaganda peddlers in the science space and give them their just desserts. So.
Love that. That's cool. Yeah, I found it really useful for myself. Obviously, I've followed it for a long time, but I homeschool. And so I'm always looking for new good resources for older students. Mine is teenager now. So it's like, okay. So we're going to start in on your content a little bit because it's a little bit more advanced than the average, high school, but it's so well communicated. Like I just said, the problem with science is that a lot of people don't understand it because I think a lot of scientists don't know how to communicate it. So we appreciate that you do. How did you get into that aspect of it, like from going from being a scientist to a science communicator?
Well, I've never been a scientist. I mean, I studied science. I studied chemistry, and so I was teaching in my 20s. I was teaching chemistry to make, to pay the rent. I was a musician, or I mean, I still am a musician, but my aspirations were in music and in art. And I was in a band that started getting, moderately successful. We were signed and touring and stuff, and we were touring a lot. So we were in the tour van thinking about how we could all get some passive income so that we could, not worry about rent and bills and stuff at home while we were on the road. And my idea was to make a YouTube channel. I had been teaching organic chemistry at this trade university for a few years, so I had really dialed down those lectures. I could just kind of rattle them off from memory. So I thought, why don't I deliver my lectures to camera as though I'm teaching class, and I'm going to put them online, and I'll have a little branding and make a little, channel persona and everything, and see what happens. Maybe I can, make a few bucks that way. And it was the first thing I ever did in my life that like worked immediately well, and just like I got a lot of positive feedback, and people were really appreciative of the content. So I just started going through everything that I had learned, and then beyond that by hiring writers and stuff like that. And here we are 11 years later. This is pretty much all I do all day, every day, all the time. So
That's awesome. Hey, as long as you enjoy it, that's the good thing, right?
Yeah.
And if it's benefiting other people, because people learn from the content that you make, it's really, really useful. I think especially to people who are deconstructing from religion, it's extremely useful for them to learn the science that they didn't learn while they were theists, as we see, flat earthers and anti-vaxxers and such, right?
100%.
Yeah, that's one of the things that actually made me decide to have my own channel. Like again, like you're like, oh, I'm not a scientist. Okay, I always considered you a scientist, but we're gonna
Hmm.
terminology, right? I'm also not a scientist, but I love communicating science. I'm really into. Everybody knows I love brains, so I
Hmm.
talk a lot about brain science because that's the one thing that actually helped me deconstruct all of the supernatural beliefs, especially the part about the very last one for me was the concept of a soul. Did you
Hmm.
struggle with that part aspect of it yourself, or?
No, I never have been religious a day in my life. Yeah,
Oh,
never
okay.
believed in souls. Yeah.
All right, that's cool. All right, so I was
Hmm.
raised an atheist, but came into religion later in life.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. That's not usually
yeah,
how it goes, but mhm.
I know, right? Yeah, well, it's kind of like they prey on people who are vulnerable or in a hard
Mhm.
spot. And for me, it was I was pregnant, and my baby was diagnosed with a congenital heart defect and potentially trisomy 13, which was non-compatible with life. And so that's when family was like, hey, like, why don't you come to church, and we'll pray for you, and the pastor like
Mhm.
heal you and the baby, and it was kind of like one of those churches that does speaking in tongues and faith.
Mm.
So I guess I was very naive and very young. I came from Argentina, from like zero exposure to religion to like neck deep into religion in Texas.
Wow.
So, so
Okay.
that's a
Yep.
different experience. Yeah. But anyway,
Mhm.
so like and coming out of it for me was like realizing that these supernatural experiences I had were all part of neurochemicals flowing in your brain and neuron connections and pathways that had been made in childhood and stuff. It was like, wow, really eye opening and like
Mhm.
completely deconverted me. So yeah, that's why I communicate that to people. But
Nice.
speaking of that, all right, I asked this question to every co-host that I've had on this show before, right? And I hope that the viewers are not tired of me asking the question. But like, I really find it fascinating hearing. I think people will really enjoy hearing your answer. And that's, how do you think? Not what do you think? How? Like your brain. Is it visual, verbal? Is it blank? Like in the case of aphantasia.
I mean, I'm highly analytical to a fault. Yeah, I definitely hyperanalyze things. Also quite visual. I have good spatial reasoning skills, so I had an easier time like learning organic chemistry and stuff where I could like imagine a molecule and like kind of rotate it in my mind. Like those puzzles where it's like some blocks stacked and it's like how many faces are exposed, and it kind of requires that you can like put your mind's eye on the other side of the object or something like that. I can do that. So I kind of, yeah, I definitely visualize things. Oh, I also have I do not have a photographic memory, but I have I don't think I made up this term, but I had never heard anyone use it, but a phonographic memory. I can store
Okay.
and recall sound bites. Like I can play back sounds in fidelity. Like I can hear like my cousin laughing when I was 7 or something, and it's like exactly the sound. And it helps me like with music. It's part of what makes, in terms of being a musician and remembering all the details of songs and stuff like that. I can play them back in my head. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I definitely would call myself a skeptic when I encounter information. My my first thought is, okay, is this true? If how do I know it's true? Especially in today's post-truth era. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I can think of at the moment. But
No, no, that's a good answer. Yeah, that's what I was. That's kind of like what I was asking, because I heard that question like 2 years ago, and I was mind blown because I was under the impression that everybody thought the same way that I did, right?
mhm,
But it actually helped me analyze my own thinking. See, I think we mentioned before the show that I'm hard of hearing. Well, I'm deaf, and I use a cochlear implant to hear, but I've only had it
mhm,
since 2017. And before that, my hearing was like really, really low. And around the same time that I got the implant, I became blind. And so I have a lot of health stuff. Right, that's a,
oh
that's a
wow,
story for another day. But anyways, it was like before my hearing became better and before my vision went down, my thinking was really visual, like really clear and sharp, and I could see things in movement. And if somebody asked me to picture something, I could picture it. But after I lost my vision and gained my hearing, it became just a voice. And now it's mostly a voice. I have such a hard time visualizing something. If somebody asks me, I don't know, hey,
Mm.
imagine a dragon with purple wings or something, I could draw it. But it's like my brain has a hard time putting that into a picture. But I think it's
Wow.
because my
Okay.
vision, yeah, well, I had a double cornea transplant as well. So that's how I
So
regained my
you have
vision.
no vision at all? You have zero vision?
No, it wasn't zero vision, but it was a combination of two separate conditions. One is where your corneas become curved and so curved that you see. If I was
Mm.
looking at the moon, I would see 10 moons.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
right, and then
Mhm,
also cataracts, which
mhm,
were pretty severe. So everything was like kind of like shadows and
mhm.
lights mostly.
Yeah.
That if I
So you
Mhm.
yeah, your brain kind of, like, rejects visual information, so you started to rely more on auditory processing and
It seems
yeah.
like it. Yeah, it was like the brain was processing input differently, which was really fascinating. It makes you think how everybody has come to their current right mode of thinking, and whether it has been shaped differently by their senses, by the level of the senses. Because I guess the majority of people have the same level of senses until they're like way older. But
Mhm.
so yeah,
Well,
it's
I do
really
have a extremely poor sense of smell. That's a weird tidbit. It's not particularly debilitating, as you might imagine. Not it's much easier to go without being able to smell than to hear or see. But that is interesting, and it probably like a lot of people talk about aromas being very triggering of memories and things like that, and so I'm definitely missing that part of it. A lot of stuff I can't smell at all. A lot of like fragrances and like flowers and things like that. Like I straight up cannot smell them at all. Other things I can smell definitely, but at like a reduced
yeah.
capacity. So,
That's interesting because my youngest sister also cannot smell at all, and that
mm.
was something we. Well, I took advantage of it when we were little. I was a little mean. Now I'm not mean, but I was like, "You really can't smell," so I would try to make her smell like really disgusting or really strong smells, and she couldn't at all. Like not at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make me wonder also how memories interact with people who can't smell. Because as you just mentioned, that a smell can trigger certain emotions or memories for people. For
Yeah.
me, it's I always mention this one because it's hand sanitizer, but it's a very specific brand that a hospital was using during COVID 2020. My now teenager had open heart surgery, and it was like a very traumatizing time for all of us. And so when I smell that specific brand of hand sanitizer, it's like gives me like really severe anxiety.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's more, yeah, auditory stuff and then but also spatial stuff. Like, I can remember, like, the exact floor plan of, like, my house when I was 3. Like, I could draw the rooms and every yeah, that kinda thing.
Yeah. Okay. I see a comment in the chat that says Cole says that a lot of people lost their smell as a side effect, their sense of smell as a side effect of COVID, and not everybody got it back. Yeah, that's
Mm,
true.
mhm.
Interesting. Very interesting. Um, let's see. I have a question of all this. Um, it's going to lead to another part of the conversation, but the modes of thinking makes me think about consciousness. Do you have a I know this is more of a philosophy question, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
Where do you stand on consciousness? Are you like a physicalist since you're like a scientist? Is somebody like, do you think consciousness
Yeah.
comes together from?
I'm a materialist reductionist. I think that consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. There's lots of, neurological research showing like how affecting the brain affects consciousness. And yeah, it's very thorough. So yeah, I don't ascribe anything divine to consciousness. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So I was reading. I figured this you might be a good person to ask this to. a friend and I were talking about consciousness, right? And he said that he asked me if I'd heard of the bicameral mind hypothesis. Have you heard of that?
Bicameral mind. I don't recall off the top of
Okay.
my head now.
All right. So it was proposed by this guy named Julian J. What is it? James maybe James. I think so. Okay. Anyway, something like that. But he basically suggests that ancient humans lack the self-awareness that we have today and experience the world through auditory hallucinations. And now I'm a really big fan of this hypothesis because it claims that voices came from sort of the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain, and one of the sides was speaking and the other side was listening, and so humans perceived everything to be coming from the outside. It was like they didn't realize that their voice was coming from the inside.
Hmm.
And he was claiming that the current I guess we could have a hypothesis of consciousness came from when humans developed language about 3,000 years ago, and spoken language, by the way, not written language. That's a little bit different. And
How
that's
long
when
ago? I mean, I feel like it's many, hundreds of thousands of years
I
ago, right?
know, but that's what where I'm at. Like, I question this hypothesis because, sure, 3,000 years ago is when we have spoken record of spoken language, but language in itself doesn't have to be spoken, right? We have records of languages that were written in all sorts of places all around the world at different times that were further back than 3,000 years ago. So I'm not, yeah, so I'm really kind of questioning this idea.
Well, quite a bit more than that. I mean, we are the earliest evidence of written language is about 6,000 years ago, and spoken language obviously predates written language by a lot. I mean, other species use vocalizations to communicate, and they definitely can't write. They don't have alphabets or anything like that. I mean, I would imagine that spoken language or verbal communication predates Homo sapiens entirely. I don't know, somebody can double check that, but no, I mean, I think the problem there is that what, like, you go back a couple thousand years or 5,000 years or 10,000 years, even humans are not genetically dissimilar from us today. So what would be the mechanism by which their brains are processing auditory signals differently? I don't know. It kind of sounds like somebody was just like, wouldn't this be a cool way to explain all religion? But didn't actually think it through. I don't know. I don't know who this person is that you're talking about, but
Right. Yeah, to me
mm,
it seemed like he was trying to use the evidence that ancient texts show a sort of shift between divine command and to personal doubt. But I don't think I see it that way. I think that that part of it, the religious part, I see it as humans have not necessarily shifted. I don't know. I think our current environment, especially political environment, shows that we have not definitely shifted from divine
yep.
command, right?
No, we're the same. Yeah, we're the same now as we were, certainly at the beginning of recorded history. I mean, we're marginally different at best. I mean, we're humans. Those were humans, and we're humans, and we're the same organisms. We just we can work from a large body of scientific knowledge now that is shared and can be communicated first through written language, and then the printing press, and now we have the internet. And the internet was supposed to make us all smarter. It seems to have done the opposite. But yeah.
Yeah, I think theories not theories, hypotheses like this are very similar to Noah's Ark, right? Like you have to completely ignore history, the entirety of history, in order to make it work. Um,
And basic logic in the case of Noah's Ark. I mean, yeah.
I know that's one of the ones that I enjoy debunking the most because I'm like, hey, well, if you're gonna say that the whole world was covered in water, what was that, like 3,200 years ago or something like that? Whenever the
Yeah, six
Noah's
thousand,
Ark,
whatever,
something like that.
something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, depending who you ask, I guess, what
Hmm.
version of the Bible. But then you completely have to ignore the civilizations that were in Peru at the same time, which have written records that we currently see, historical records, and there was like no break in those historical records to say like, oh, hey, everybody drowned, and there's this periods of
Yeah,
hundreds of years where nobody was
yeah.
there doing anything.
So how come all these people definitely totally existed all over the world and did not die? Also, where did all the water come from, and where did it all go? And how the hell did Noah do that with all the animals, and which animals were on there, and how did they, differentiate from the? It's yeah. I mean, we could talk for 10 hours about how ridiculous the Noah myth is, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's one of them was the most interesting. Well, other than Adam and Eve, right? Adam and Eve is another one that you
Mhm.
can very very easily debunk. Speaking of debunking, what's your favorite to debunk? What your favorite theist?
I mean, it's really fun debunking creationism, just because of how ridiculous it is and how like entrenched it is in American culture in particular, what a threat it is. But there's a lot of, I mean, Flat Earth was the first thing, and honestly, okay, that was really fun when I was, really fixating on the Flat Earth cult. That was definitely a blast. It's all fun, but I mean, I think a lot of the pleasure I derive from it is going after particular figures that aren't being talked about enough, like Sabina Hassenfelder or Avi Loeb or some of these characters where not a lot of people are speaking out and being like, fraud. And so when I do it and I have a pretty reasonably sized platform with which to do it, it really like messes things up for that person. Like the conversation on the internet now shifts noticeably towards, oh yeah, that person is a fraud. Okay. And it kind of just changes the public perception of that figure. So I derive a lot of satisfaction from like measurably harming the reputation of frauds that nobody has really challenged yet. The
Interest.
Weinstein, stuff like that. Yeah.
No, interesting that you mentioned Sabin Hassenfelder, because
Yeah.
I used to be a pretty big fan of her when I
Hmm.
first began watching, YouTube science videos and stuff many years ago. But then I was like, what the fuck happened? What?
Yeah.
Can you answer that question? What the fuck happened to her?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, some people didn't notice at all and continued drinking the Kool-Aid. Some people started to notice and got a funny feeling about it, but they couldn't articulate it. And then when I started making content about her, they were like, oh, Dave nailed it. He articulated exactly what I was feeling and then expanded on it and then got all of the clips. And I mean, she's very clearly, at the very least, experiencing audience capture by a very large pool of science deniers that want content denigrating science in the scientific community and academia and everything like that. Or I have publicly hypothesized that that she is being paid by Peter Thiel or some such figure, because we can see very clearly how her rhetoric aligns with the agenda of specific oligarchs in terms of polarizing the public against the scientific community, against academic institutions, against the concept of scientific expertise, even to the point of like academia is communism. We're throwing in, and like anti-communism propaganda to bolster predatory capitalism. Like it reeks of Peter Thiel and figures like him. So it's just like, like if he's not paying her, he's getting the freebie of a lifetime because she's out there just proselytizing on his behalf, like line point for point his exact agenda. So that's one of the ones I'm the most proud of because I'm the only one. Like nobody was out there, taking her down. And now the perception of her has changed quite a bit because of my content. So.
Yeah, really, I think it really has. I was just really shocked because I found her content pretty informative at first, then but then it was just, I don't know whether to call it
Yeah.
conspiracy theorist or grifting or what the heck, but it completely changed, and I'm glad that I noticed it. But yeah, I'm also glad that you brought it
Yeah.
to everybody's attention. You have a big platform, so it's important to
Yeah.
use your voice for.
Yeah, and I mean, I was very clear. Like in my first video, I tried to be as gentle as possible and go like, okay, she's got pop sci videos that are not problematic, totally fine, but this stuff she's doing over here, not so good. And the backlash was pretty intense. So, and she, replied and made some smug comments about me and stuff. So I made another and another and another, and then she defended Eric Weinstein, which is like, okay, this is such a clear demonstration. She fabricated an email, like doing all this stuff. So it just over a course of about 5 videos, and then I had a bunch of physicists speak up and like, oh, if you're not going to listen to me, how about these guys? These are all, most of these are way more accomplished in the field of physics than Sabina. So that ruins the whole, like, she's a super mega genius physicist, who are you? Like, well, all right, this guy wrote the book on quantum field theories that all grad students use, so will you listen to him maybe? So yeah, I don't know. That's been a fun one for me.
Yeah, I think the method, I suppose you could call it, that people like Sabin use is using complex terminology and words that make them sound like they know exactly what they're talking about. And so
Hmm.
people who are not informed, or people who grow up in very religious households, or who are anti-science and don't quite understand those terms, but think, oh, well, this very well spoken woman who seems very smart is using these big words and is making these
Hmm.
really good arguments, then it must be true. It's kind of like this the fallacy of what is it called, authoritarianism. I'm sorry, this is a comment and my screen is blocked a little bit.
It says, my goat, Professor Dave, helped me deconstruct from biblical literalism, fundamentalism. Happy to do it, Zach.
Oh,
I'm
that's
here for you, buddy.
awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but what you're saying, like, it's actually much worse than that, because it's not that people are dazzled by complex terminology, because if they were, they would listen to scientists, right? They would listen to any scientist that knows what they're talking about. It's about the narrative, that the terminology, that the buzzwords are packaged with. And so Sabina is somewhat guilty of what you're talking about. She actually does try to talk to her audience on the level. She's just lying the whole time. Eric Weinstein is a guy who's more what you're saying. Like, he goes on on Piers Morgan with Sean Carroll, and he's just like all the like stuff, SU1, SU2, U1 symmetries, and like all this stuff that he's like, that Piers and nobody listening have any idea what you're talking about. That's not how science communicators talk. When Sean talks, he knows his audience, and he's being clear and deconstructing things and speaking simply. But whether it's whatever the style of speaking, these types of figures, the narrative is always the same. It's always this blanket anti-establishment narrative against universities, against scientific consensus. I'm the lone rebel, truth teller, whistleblower. You have to listen to me. I'll tell you what's true in science. And by the way, all of science is bad, and science is falling apart, and I don't trust scientists, and da 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 da. That's the message. That is the message that brings them revenue, and that is the message that serves the interests of the oligarchs. Right? Oligarchs are trying to sow the seeds of distrust in institutionalized knowledge, right? Whether that is CDC or FDA or anything, which are now captured by Kennedy anyway. But it's just this: don't listen to people who know what they're talking about. Listen to us. We'll tell you what's true. That's the whole point of it, essentially.
Yeah, this is definitely something that's been going on for many, many years.
Yeah.
In the first term of the current administration, not naming names, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't know if you were familiar with the March for Science a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's when I first started noticing what enormous harm was being done by the people that are asking the average person to completely ignore scientists and people that actually know what they're talking about. So again, I'm not a scientist, but that's when I became much more outspoken about the worth of science.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped organize the Houston March for Science. We had like 15,000 people. It was really awesome. Because I mean, Houston is such a big place for science. We have the biggest medical center in the world. We have NASA over here. It's a real, oil and gas also. I guess you could consider science, even if it's not my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But it was part of what brought all of these different communities together. Um, and it's such a shame that what has it been, almost 10 years later, and we're still in the exact same position all over
Or
again,
much
all
worse.
over
It's
again.
much, much, much worse.
Uh,
It's
yeah,
currently way worse than since I've been alive. It's the worst time since I've been alive politically for science. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I was just talking to a friend. I came from Argentina like 25 years ago, and we were escaping the political climate that was going on there. There were riots, and people were getting murdered by the police. People were
Mm-hmm.
starving. We had 5 presidents in 2 weeks, and so we moved to the U.S. For a better life. And I'm having PTSD
Right, because it's
flashbacks.
happening here now.
Exactly,
You've
and I'm
got
like,
ICE murdering people. Just
like, yeah, I'm
that's
like, do
it.
I need to go again? Do I need to live somewhere
I
again?
know. No, I feel you.
And
It's crossed my mind. I'm taking steps to have an escape route available should it be necessary.
yeah, I'm lucky. We have my parents live in Switzerland, so we have that option. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's at the top of the list. It's at the top of the list. But yeah, it's really hard watching not just all of the harm that is being done, but again, going back to science, right? Um, because it's so easily accessible. Science is so easily accessible these days. We have everything at our fingertips, on our phones, on our computers, on our Alexas, whatever. There's literally books everywhere, although they're being banned. The good ones, I
Hmm.
guess. But so I was having a conversation with a friend who is a pediatrician, and he speaks very openly about the harms of childhood indoctrination, religious indoctrination. Like what we're seeing with Christian nationalism and all of that. I was lucky that my mom was an atheist when we were growing up, and so I was brought up surrounded by all kinds of books, mostly science books. Like my mom loves science, but I find it concerning that when people are raised, in these very fundamentalist religious um, cults or sects, I guess you could call it, their understanding of science is so limited. And as they grow up, unless they take the initiative to either educate themselves, like self-education, or receive some sort of formal education, they keep all of these biases and these sort of, I guess you could call them, pseudoscientific understandings of science until they're through adulthood. Some of them never break them down.
Sure. Yeah.
And do you think that religious upbringing has anything to do with why so many religious adults struggle to grasp science, and like, the flat earthers, the faith healers, the dream demons, and what do you?
It's an interesting question, and I mean, there's different. I mean, obviously, yeah. If you're brainwashed from birth to reject empirical science, that's
Oh, sorry, I think your the video cut off a little bit. I don't know if it's just me, maybe.
I
The
still see both of us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, the audio had cut off for a second
Weird.
as you began to talk.
Um,
Sorry about that.
so yeah, like the flat earth cult is very interesting because it's about 50-50 split of like just hardcore biblical literalists that are like, Bible says it's flat, so it's flat. End of story. Word of God. And then the other half that are actually not particularly religious and are just like conspiratorial thinkers on steroids, just like everything, all of reality is a conspiracy, from the lizard people, NASA, whatever you want to call it. Something else, but then like, for example, you said like faith healing, or well, not faith healing, but just like a mystical, Reiki and like quantum healing and things like that. That actually is sort of takes advantage of societal like the societal shift towards secularity, in that it sort of replaces almost religion. You know what I mean? It's this other foundational falsehood where a certain percentage of people didn't really grow up with religion, but they still kind of have this yearning for the supernatural or divinity or whatever you want to call it, and they kind of fill it up with this other thing, like, oh, but maybe there is this magic, and it has quantum all over it, and quantum is a science word, so it's true. Anything I want to be true that with the word quantum can be. It's not rigidly aligned with religious indoctrination. That's a big factor, definitely, but the human mind is so complex, and there's so many ways and trap doors to get into this pseudoscience pipeline, where once you're in, you can descend as far as you like. And that's what makes the job of a debunker and a science communicator so difficult, because there's so much out there. Every single day, I'm just exasperated about, like, all of this is happening, and I can address like 1% of it, working 80 hours a week. I can barely scratch the surface of this stuff. We need so many more people doing this, because there's so much content out there that's so damaging. And it's so many different flavors. The religious part of it is a big part of it, but it's not the whole story. Definitely.
No, that's a good point, because even someone like myself, right, who was raised atheist and among science books, was somehow
You
duped
got
or
ensnared by
fell
it. Yeah.
into, right, like into falling into believing in ghosts and
Mhm.
spirits and demons and hell and the devil. um, and I remember when I was between the point of leaving religion, but I hadn't quite yet. I started looking into this book called The Secret, and it was, like this whole manifesting thing. You've heard about it, right? Manifesting, sort of
Sure. You
maybe.
manifest what you want in reality, or yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
and so they use that terminology of quantum physics
Yeah,
and string
obviously.
theory and
The
vibrations
observer
and
effect, double slit experiment, and misrepresent all that. Yeah, of
yeah,
course,
and it's
obviously.
like, and I'm like, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that for what, like, it sounds
Mhm.
so freaking dumb once you understand the most basic of it. But
Yeah. In fact, I made a video called "Quantum is Stupid," where I, for about an hour, break down all of that, from what the bleep do we know, and Deepak Chopra, all the way to what's going on today. And you have to rigidly define terms like energy and frequency and vibration and all of the buzzwords that they use to ensnare people in order to sell products and services and things of that nature. Yeah, we have an opportunity, right? The internet is where all of the disinforming happens, but we can also use the internet to put out content to neutralize the influence of that content, and help influence the way people think, and arm them with the ability to spot this crap. And absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I think the best thing I ever did was come into the skeptic community and start listening to other skeptics and realizing, I think epistemology is definitely one of the things that was super, super helpful in helping me question myself and
Yeah.
learning how to engage with other people are that have their mindset and don't want to change their mind. And you don't want to
Mhm.
necessarily change their mind. You want them to think about how they came to that point
Yeah.
where they don't want to change their mind.
Give them the tools to reflect and realize that there's nothing substantive that has led them to that worldview. I mean, sometimes it's as easy as just like articulating something that somebody sort of intuitively already arrived at, but wasn't quite able to articulate to themselves internally, but just hearing it out loud. But like, I kind of knew that, but now that you say it, like, yeah, that's totally true.
Makes more
Like,
sense.
this aspect of religion is ridiculous, and you nailed it on the head, right? With just exactly how you described it. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a question that says, Dave, do you think
Mhm.
that when releasing vaccines, it will help ease some people's nerves about them if the biochemistry explanation of how it interacts with the body, assuming there will, oh, if there was, I guess, if there was
Yeah.
an explanation.
Yeah, I mean that the assumption is a pretty big one, right? Because people don't. I mean, most people don't know how vaccines work. The information is very, very available, and anytime I do a debunk of anti-vaxxers, I inevitably include a super abbreviated version of how vaccines work, right? Because people genuinely don't know, and just knowing how vaccines work is enough to debunk half of anti-vaxxers' talking points. So it's not for a lack of information. We learn this stuff in high school, and there's content online, and just you can literally just Google how do vaccines work and read for 5 minutes, and you will learn how vaccines work. And then you can go deeper. I have an entire immunology series that in depth, way more depth than most people want to know. Explains how the immune system works, and so it's there. The info's there. Internet age, we're here. It's all
I
available.
know, but I keep thinking back to the recent events of 2 days ago, where people were told a specific story, and then when the video came out, it was like they're they don't see it. They
Are you
don't
talking
see
about the
what's in
ICE
the video.
murdering the woman, or
Right, correct, yeah,
yeah?
yeah. I didn't want to get super political, but like giving an example of how people are so resistant to facts, to evidence, to
Yeah,
things that you can see with your own eyes.
right. No, it's extremely alarming watching the federal government lie and defend domestic terrorists who murder people, and we see the footage of them murdering them, and they just say, "Nope, this is totally fine. Nope, this is fine, not a problem." It does not bode well for what's going to happen over the next few years, and then seeing how whether Trump like stays in power in dictatorial fashion, or what kind of transference of power is going to happen, what is going on behind the scenes in terms of the government in general. I don't know what's going to. I'm very nervous about the next 2 to 10
Very much.
years in America. It could get really bad, or it could just kind of like this phenomena, this MAGA cult phenomenon will kind of dissipate, and then there will be a backlash, and then we'll kind of shift more towards progressivism. I don't know. It could go either way, but I'm nervous, and I'm kind of just like trying to do what I can to help people make sense of all the noise, and also have one foot out the door in case I need to get out of here. Yeah,
And that's the tricky part, because like you just stated, right? Is it gonna be 3 or is it gonna be 10 years? Like we don't know.
sure.
We don't
Yeah,
know.
we just don't
And
know.
yeah, and so I think that's a lot of the part of that brings people a lot of anxiety. Excuse me, there's question. Oh, any new tour shenanigans? I
There are
guess
new.
that's for you because I'm not on tour anymore.
Sure. Oh no, she's this person is referring to James Tour, who I have famously debunked the hell out of many, many times. And the answer is yes. Tour recently went on Tucker Carlson's show, and that went exactly how you would think it would go. And I just finished writing the script today for that, so that'll come out in a week or something. I don't know, soon. So yeah, another James Tour video for you guys. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, Lil is a friend, and she was telling me earlier that she has your shirt, and that's the one that gets the most compliments. So,
Oh, cool. All right. I will say I have very recently in the past few months started getting recognized in public with any regularity. For a very, very long time. It almost never happened. I would get recognized a couple times a year or something. But yeah, in the last few months, pretty much anytime I go to like a large if I go to like the Americana shopping center in LA, or I was in Legoland over and yeah, I'll get recognized a couple times. So I was like, cool. All right. I'm a little more people know me. That's fun.
okay, yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. No, it's not a question, but I think it's just being funny. Somebody said, "Can you show me the chemistry?" But I think it's just joking around. Okay,
That's
we have
another
a
James
looks like.
Tour inside joke. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Looks like there is a call, and I think we are ready for the call. All right, let's wait a second for our technology people to do whatever they gotta do. Let's pop in the call. So we have Eden from Florida, and uses pronouns he, him, and is an atheist. That the call topic is how religion and politics are interconnected. So why are these things popping up? So sorry. My Windows keeps getting covered with
Howdy.
things. Oh, hey, Eden. Okay, I wasn't sure if you're ready for us yet. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Doing pretty good.
Okay, good. Go ahead with. Did you have a question or comment or anything?
No, I don't really know how to start it exactly, but it's kind of like noting on how interconnected like religion and politics are like so entwined, because most of us, when we're growing up Christian and when we deconvert, we're like, oh, why exactly do I not really like gay people? And then like we are, now critical about our beliefs instead of just taking it on authority, or reading the Bible that you don't like hold to anymore in a way.
Yeah, so using religion as an instrument to sow hatred and division, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it does have a lot to do with authoritarianism. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, no, I kind of agree with that too, because when part of my deconstruction, I was thinking about like how Christianity specifically views like death and dying, because you grow up thinking that this is the entire point, is to go to like heaven and stuff, but no one from Christianity actually more like celebrates the death, because that's the whole point. So culturally speaking, it makes more sense for us to like mourn it, but on the basis of this theology, we shouldn't be we shouldn't be sad about it.
We should be stoked. They're going to the thing,
right? And
they're going to the island.
They're going to heaven, which is good, or they're going to hell, which is also good, or whatever, because God's plan is
they deserve it,
or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the conception of an has never been anything but an instrument of control, right? It's a way in, say, the medieval era to get a peasantry to be complacent with their subjugation, right? And that's why all these passages about it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven or something. It's just basically like, oh yeah, they have everything now, but don't worry, when you die, you get the good thing, right? So don't worry, just have a shit life now, and later it'll be awesome. Don't revolt, don't try to get any of the wealth that we're hoarding. That's really what it's been to me, and also sort of like a Santa Claus for adults, right? What sees you when you're sleeping and when you're walking, don't do anything bad, blah, 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 which I think served humanity maybe 10,000 years ago or whatever it is, but we're past that. We should be past that. So
yeah, it's kind of like, hey, buy the gift now, but open it later.
Yeah. It's just so popular that it's hard to like let go for a lot of people, and it's like their entire being, and it seems like basically identity politics. Like you question the Bible, and oh my God, you blasphemy,
Yeah, it's a phenomenal way of mobilizing fear of mortality, because fear of mortality drives most of this, right? It's just people are afraid to die. Death is the end. The finality of it is terrifying. I'm very scared of death. I think about it probably every day. But the thing is that it's a way of getting, like, if you trigger that in people and go, but don't worry, no, if you follow this thing, then you'll live forever. And by the way, part of it is that you hate these people and you don't like this and you don't want that. And women can't have rights and all this other stuff. And so that's how you get people to very fervently align with their own subjugation, is by tethering it to the fear of mortality. So that's why people get really triggered on these culture war topics, because in the back of their head, they're always like, no, my team, because I'm going to keep living after death. And and you're going to try to take away from take that away from me when we argue about trans people or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's absolutely insane. Yeah.
And when you tell them that souls probably most likely don't exist and there's no reason for us to believe in it, then they're like, what? You know, they just freak out because that's the entire basis. Or, you know, well, we barely have like evidence of Jesus, which would be nice to have. And I'm personally not like a mythicist or whatever, but it would be nice to have more than just like, you know, the Bible talking about the basis of an entire religion. But, you know, you got to give 10% to people who don't eat it.
Yeah, no, the hypocrisy of creationists, like asking for all this evidence for scientific principles, which, by the way, does exist. They just don't want to learn about it, while not ever turning that inwards and going, well, why do I believe this story that has no corroboration from any external sources of any kind? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Ken Ham is asking for like $1 billion again.
For what? What is he going to do with $1 billion?
I don't know. I forgot. I think he wants to build something.
He wants to build the Tower of Babel.
Yeah. Probably another church, another mega church to make more money, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
the building, the arc that they did.
Yeah, a bigger one, 10 times the size.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Christian, but sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna ask if you had any other question. We have another call waiting.
No, I think that's right. I don't really have anything else to talk about, but it's hard to like not think of religion and politics as like a control mechanism, even though it's like it's really consistent of like being a tool for the masses.
Yeah, it's a way for people to be complicit with tyranny and their own subjugation. That's long been the case.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the term Christian nationalism brings both of them together pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ethan. Thank you so much for your call. Oh yeah, sorry. There's a bit of a delay. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Okay, next caller.
Okay, yeah. We have Ivan or Ivan, maybe Ivan. I don't know. I pronounce it in Spanish. Sorry, it's Ivan. Him from Maryland, and he's an agnostic, and he wants to ask Professor Dave, how do you deal with the criticisms of empiricism?
What would those be? Can we trust our sense?
All right, let's see. Hey, Ivan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah. Go ahead. What did you mean by that question? Can you like expand a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, empiricism is a worldview in the view in epistemology about how we acquire knowledge. It seems like, Professor Dave, you are an empiricist through and through, and so I was just curious how you deal with some of the criticisms. I mean, I guess the first one being that empiricism itself can't justify empiricism, right? Because if the idea is we can only acquire knowledge through our sensory apparatus or through the scientific method, that proposition itself is not acquired through our sensory apparatus or through the scientific method. So it seems that the worldview can't get off the ground without at least accepting some form of rationalism, that there are things we can know a priori. And then there's also like the myth of the given and some other things, but I guess we can just start there. Like, I mean, how does empiricism justify itself, or do you just not adopt a
because it works. I mean, like in order to disavow the fruits of scientific inquiry, you'd have to go all the way to like solipsism. You know what I mean? Like if I'm a brain in a jar somewhere and none of this is real, okay, I don't know, man. Like maybe it's fine.
Well,
but
no, I Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I wasn't saying anything like that. Like, we might be brains in a vat. I wasn't going like radical.
I know, but I'm saying but that's the logical conclusion of rejecting empirical knowledge, right? Because the fruits of the scientific endeavor are technology. Like we know, like when we probe nature and figure out what things are made of and how everything works, we learn about nature, and then we use that knowledge to make things that work, right? Everything around us is technology and materials produced thanks to our understanding of the molecular world, even the subatomic world, how forces and everything. And so I don't need any like conjecture. Like I see that the knowledge that we have uncovered about the universe is accurate and works in like predicting what will happen. And there's going to be an eclipse on this day. Well, there was. So the equations that we use to govern celestial motion must be true, right? Because they accurately predict the positions of everything, and then we can make phones and computers and all this stuff. So so atoms are real, electrons are real.
I suppose I should have worded what I was asking you better. I'm not denying that empirical knowledge is valuable. I guess what I'm getting at a more philosophical claim, which is that I assume you adopt, but I could be incorrect, that the only knowledge we can acquire is that which is acquired through empirical data. Given your, like staunch resistance toward things like, I don't know, the soul or God's
physical world.
I mean, I'm agnostic, so like obviously I'm not convinced of those things either. But you do seem to be a bit quick to dismiss these views, especially when there are rigorous arguments for them. It seems to be on the ground
which position and which argument though, because I don't like, it's like I know I have a tenuous knowledge of some of these philosophical concepts, but I tend to not. It always devolves into mental masturbation. I feel like with when you go down deep with philosophy, but it's like I'm not rejecting it as a field of study, but just like tell me, be very specific about what position you think I'm rejecting, because I don't study philosophy. Like I don't know all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we can just ask I'll just ask a question to see if you do subscribe to the view. I guess my question is all knowledge acquired through empirical data, through sense experience, or can there be forms of knowledge that we acquire absent this, like a priori?
Yeah. No. I mean, like math is not empirical. Right, mathematical truths can be arrived at exclusively through rational thought. Empiricism is useful, and I would argue the only way to understand the universe and the external world, the external physical world. Right, you can get useful information about abstract hypothetical realities like the mathematical world, and also about yourself. Like I like when I think about myself and my in an abstract way, I'm not necessarily being empirical. I'm just kind of exercising reason and intuition. So no, in terms of the totality of human experience, I wouldn't say empiricism is the only thing that has any utility. It's only about, if I want to figure out what something is made of, empiricism exclusively. That's it.
Another tool, basically.
Okay, that's fair. Under that view, then doesn't that put like soul theory back on the table then? Given that it's not an empirical claim, it's not making a claim about some form of matter. It's like the metaphysical claim. Same thing with God's existence, or I mean, those are the two famous ones. That's why I go to them. But I guess for you could put free will in there too. But just these are claims that aren't. These are people that are making claims. People that believe in these are making claims about the physical world or the natural sciences. They're making metaphysical claims, and so it seems that you dismissing
some of them are.
the soul or free will on empirical grounds would be a category error, no?
Well, I don't know about free will. I have no idea if you're free will or not. But a soul, I mean, you can take a cop out and say, well, that's not a physical object, so empiricism doesn't apply there. But it interacts with the physical, right? It's if a soul is animating the body, right? What is the mechanism by which that happens? Right? You just kind of can't escape it, right? If it's doing something to bodies. And then people totally do the thing where it's like, oh, you lose some mass when you die, so that was the soul leaving the body or something like that. I mean, maybe we could say that's a weak argument and disregard that. But It just comes back to, like, if you're going to say a soul exists, why do, if somebody says that, I don't understand the basis for it other than an argument from ignorance, right? How can life be without a spirit, right? And which is why it's a very, very defensible belief hundreds of years ago, prior to modern biology and chemistry, and that knowledge and neurology and things like that. But yeah, I just don't, like, why would I believe in something without a reason to believe it? I guess,
Right, but just because
presumably, the
something.
person that believes-
Sorry,
I'm
delay.
sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, just because something is invisible, is not visible, doesn't mean you cannot get evidence of it. Like, you have functional MRIs to see the function of your brain that we cannot see with the naked eye, right?
Yeah.
That's one example.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems that presumably people that believe in these things, they just don't. It's not for no reason, right? I mean, I don't even know if that'd even be possible to believe in something without a reason. But now you can make the argument, there's no good reason or whatever. But
well, yeah,
at least
the reason is that people are afraid to die. I think that's why most
right?
people believe in
An argument.
Sorry, continue. I spoke over you for a little bit. I missed it.
Oh, I was just saying that. The reasons that these people are going to give are usually going to be, in the form of in the same way that you mentioned with mathematics. They're coming to these conclusions through pure reason, right? Like, someone might believe in God because of they find the contingency argument persuasive, right? Contingent things exist, and there needs to be some necessary grounding, et cetera. Pick your argument. But it seems that there are at least some reasons to believe in these things, even if you may find them unconvincing. But it seems that oftentimes when you dismiss these views, it's on empirical grounds, which I think is a category error, because as you said, you have no empirical reason to believe it.
But to be clear, I do not dismiss pure theism the way I dismiss organized religion, which does make very, very concrete empirical claims, right? The idea of just believing in deity,
that kind of thing.
huh?
But like young Earth and that kind of thing.
Yeah, younger. I mean, any form of creationism is making a concrete claim about the origin of life and things like that. So I reject that on the basis of empiricism. That is not how I would approach just a blanket, vague belief in a deity of some sort or another. I don't subscribe to it, but I don't I can disprove, if someone says the Earth is 6,000 years old, I can disprove them easily. I cannot disprove a God exists. End of claim. I can't do that. I can't do that. So, and
I think you cut out there. I don't know if you're still talking.
Yeah. I think so too. Super quick. We'll wait for a second. Okay, there we go. You're back. I think you're back. Yeah, your sound cut off for a second.
Oh, okay. What did I just say? Yeah, I don't reject just vague blanket theism the way that I do creationism and other very specific fundamentalist claims that do interfere with empirical knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just have never found any such argument convincing. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was just probing into whether or not you thought we could only acquire knowledge through. I mean, you seemed to grant earlier that there can be knowledge that can be acquired absent, the scientific method or empirical data. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
and then,
instruments,
right? Claims about how scientists should proportion their beliefs to the evidence, right? I mean, that's a non-empirical claim as well. That's fair.
Right.
And then I don't know if there's like a limit here. I did have a follow-up topic that I wanted to discuss.
We do have 2 other calls and we only have like 30 minutes left. Do you think
if you real fast, maybe if you have.
Yeah, we could do it super fast.
Okay, we can try. Yeah, it was actually around the trans brains research. Whatever are your stances on the trans ideology? I'm sort of, it's not really relevant to the conversation. I just want to talk about the research. It does seem that Well, I'm sorry.
I just say it's not an ideology. It's just it's biology.
So I just want to say like whatever your stance is on because I know like conservatives are against and liberals are for, but I just want, this is not like a political conversation about it. I just want to talk about the research because it does seem to be that the view that there are like distinct trans brains doesn't seem to be borne out in the research, especially given most of the studies in like the 2010s, early to mid to late 2010s had a lot of problems, like lack of homosexual controls, hormone therapy, etc. A lot of the post 2020 studies did remedy for this, but in the two best ones that we have, at least to my knowledge, which is the Clemens study in, I believe, 2021, and then the Enigma study in 2023, the findings were seem very, very minimal compared to the claims that are being made. And I'm not the only one that's mentioned this. There are a lot of neuroscientists that have come out with articles about I think there's one that's called like the epistemic injustice of like trans brain studies. But it seems that there have been little to no findings, and of what we have found, it's what you would expect. Like the Enigma study in 2023 is probably the best trans brain study to date, and corrected for all of the errors of like the 2010s. And what they found was exactly what you would expect, which is that trans women and straight or cis men had more volume than trans men and straight women. So biological men had greater volume than biological women. And so this just seems to be something exact thing that you would expect, which is what they found in their study when they controlled for all of these issues that the 2010 studies had. And then the Clemens study, which reviewed, they ran their own study based on 11 experiments that were looking at, or they ran a study that took, I believe, the 9 most popular regions that popped up in the literature in the 2010s that were found to be statistically significant. They only found a statistical significant difference in one area, which was the putamen, and that difference was only 10%. So it seems that once you control for all of these confounds, which a lot of the post 2020 studies did, the results have basically like disappeared. And so it seems that the claims that, if you want to advocate for transgenderism on alternative grounds, that's fair game. But it seems that it is distorting the literature to advocate on transgenderism on empirical grounds, at least in neuroscience.
I kind of got to wrap up here, but yeah, I mean, I'm not up to speed on the literature. I don't follow it closely.
Yeah,
but that's not the impression that I have received. I haven't read the studies that you're talking about, but obviously there's correlation between specific regions of the brain and gender identity and sexuality, as well as ratios of gray matter, women, stuff like that. I don't know, but I'm not knowledgeable enough in this area to comment seriously on specific studies, also that I have not read. But no, my position remains that gender identity is a neuroanatomical construct that we just don't fully understand yet, obviously.
Yeah, same here. I'm not expert to talk about that topic. So I would say we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next call.
What led you to that conclusion, like that it's a neuroanatomical category? If you just said that you're not versed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to say research that I've glanced at and has had that I've seen summarized, and you're going to say, well, no, new studies disprove that, and I haven't read those studies, so I don't know how to like have a conversation about it because I haven't read them. I don't know,
appreciate the call, but we're going to go ahead and move on to. We have 2 more, so I appreciate the call, Ivan. Maybe you can call next time we have someone that is more experienced on this specific topic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. All right, we are going to take the next one is, let me find it. Meso, I think I have this correct. Meso, he came from California. He's a theist, and he says, if religion was created to control others, why is that wrong?
Not that way. I didn't word it that way, but I'll take that. But whatever. Go ahead. I heard Dave talk. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well.
Oh yeah, no. How's it going? Good to talk to you. I guess to answer your question, number one, I wouldn't be so overly reductive as to say that religion was created exclusively to control others. I think it's an artifact of human psychology that predates human civilization by hundreds of thousands of years, right? Or like spirituality and religion and the concept of divinity and trying to figure out how stuff works without any empirical knowledge. That's before human civilization. However, people in power have used religion to subjugate the masses, and that obviously is wrong. I would love to hear an argument for why that's not wrong to do that. I can't figure out why anyone would think that's not wrong to do.
Yeah, usually the way, I mean, I could touch on the earlier topic that you just said, the earlier statement, but I called in for something else. So focusing on the latter part where you said, well, there's been people in the past that have used it and they've used it to control people, which I don't necessarily disagree with you on. And you said that's wrong, and that's obviously wrong, and I should argue against that. Well, the way it usually works in the form of debate is when you make a claim, especially a moral claim that's universally binding, you have to make the argument for it. So do you have an argument for why that's wrong, or you don't?
I don't want people threatening my life if I don't conform to baseless religious ideology. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Do you want somebody coming over to your house and saying, believe in this thing I made up or I'm going to kill you? No, nobody wants that. So why would we accept that as moral good?
Okay, that's not really an argument. That's more of like a taste preference. Like I like chocolate or I like ice cream. So do you have an argument?
If your taste is that you like having your life threatened over imaginary stories, then you're entitled to that opinion, I guess. Most people are not like that. And to me, I think that what serves the good of the most people is the moral good, right? Everybody should be free to live their life and believe that what they want without somebody murdering them in a crusade or an inquisition or something.
I mean, but there is even more insidious examples that I can give you. Right here in Texas, right where I live, they've put in the 10 Commandments in public schools. They've put in a public curriculum for public schools that includes several biblical stories and several biblical, commands from the 10 Commandments from the Bible. It's like they're not
You're imposing religious belief on
believe it or die, but but they're forcibly imposing those beliefs on the most vulnerable of people, the population, right? Children who are just barely starting to learn all of this. So how is that not an attempt at control?
Well, he's admitting it is control. He's saying it's okay to do.
You were saying first you said it's morally wrong. First you said something different, and then you changed it to, well, it's morally wrong for people in power or authority to use religion to control people. And you said, well, I just think it's wrong because that's what I feel. The problem with that is that you're reducing it to your own personal taste preference. It doesn't have any universal binding argument. I mean, you're just saying, I feel like that's wrong because I don't want it done to me, so therefore it's wrong. So is your preference the arbitrator between truth and falsehood or good and wrong in this situation?
Is it okay to kill people?
That's not an argument. That's a question.
I'm asking you, dude, you're just using random jargon. Like everyone should be free. Do you think everyone should be free?
If you're not intellectually sophisticated, don't call my words jargon. Learn philosophy.
This guy's a prick. Get this guy out of here. Cut him off.
Can you either answer the question or we will move on? We're engaging in a conversation.
Get done.
Next caller.
Okay, then bye. Wow, why call if you're not gonna engage in a conversation where it's a back and forth answering questions?
Yeah.
Like, all right, okay. So the call screeners dropped that one. Yeah, that was just a troll. I know, obviously. What a waste of time. Okay, I'm not exactly sure. Who do we have next? There's like 2 callers next. I'm waiting to see who will be. Okay, and we got 15 minutes. We have 2, Rosho and Zach.
Hey.
I'm not sure who's on first.
Hey, am I? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear somebody.
Yeah, who will this be? What is your name?
This is Zach. If you can.
Okay, good, perfect. All
right. Okay. Hey. Yeah, my main thing, I guess, is I was, raised super, everything in the Bible is literally true. Evolution is fake and scientists hate God. And of course, I eventually realized that is not true at all, and that's not how it works. And I was encouraged to call in, I guess. So here I am, because it's something I've thought about a lot, because I'm still kind of like, I would not necessarily call myself an atheist yet. I still kind of believe in God, just not in like, oh, the Bible is entirely true, because that's something that took a lot of time to change. That's why, well,
Mhm.
sorry,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
the thoughts
when
are
you're
like
raised,
coming.
it's hard to modify your entire core worldview. Like it's not a flip of a switch. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, a lot of things I've seen are that it's kind of like the way it works in like the propaganda sense,
Mhm.
that I think makes it really difficult to pull people out of too, is like every church I grew up in, they all promoted like, if you want to be a good Christian as well, you have to be conservative. And automatically you have two things here, and you can kind of add more and more so that it's a web, so that you can't let one thing go, because all these
Yeah,
other things come into question too.
right.
That makes it
Totally.
super difficult.
Yeah. I think in
Um,
order for somebody to pull away from that mind frame, they have to have spotted inconsistencies and hypocrisies and already have in their own minds begun to sow the seeds of doubt. And then they are open to alternate information. And then once they, are ready, like obviously, if you watch, I have videos debunking creationism and stuff, and it's like, it's very easy to understand. Like it's very crystal clear if you're open to that information. And so once that change has occurred within somebody, then they're kind of ready to depart. So it sounds like that's what happened with you, because you probably don't subscribe to some of the more conservative aspects of the Christian culture, whatever kind of maybe some sort of bigotry, or whether you felt it was leveled at you or other people, or what happened. Yeah.
yeah, a big reason I got this video or this live in my recommended was because I saw you, and it was your videos that helped me a lot, because I remember I clicked on one of them, and I'll admit it kind of made me uncomfortable
Mhm.
at first, and so I quit partway through. But
Which
eventually,
one was
I
it, if you don't mind me
got a
asking?
flat Earth one. I
Oh,
can
it was
dunk
a
on
flat Earth
flat
one?
Earth today, and
Oh, yeah.
um, I wasn't a flat Earth, but like
We can
I,
all, even
it was
creationists can laugh at flat earthers. That's how dumb flat earth is. Yeah.
That's
But
good.
which create was it, my very long 5-part series guide to debunking creationism, or was it a different one?
it was, I think, a couple months ago I really kind of got started on this, so I can't say for certain. I know
Okay.
one of the
All right.
first,
What?
you were dunking on Candace Owens for something,
Oh,
and there was
yeah. No, yeah.
around that era at least.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
What do you think made you uncomfortable about it?
um, it first, just kind of like the idea that I could have been wrong about things for 24 years, but certainly it's also not. Sorry, I got distracted for a moment. I mean, Professor Dave certainly does have a style too. When he's debunking something, he shows no mercy on it, and that was kind of like, I don't mean it in like a bad way. Like, you can't do that. Like, obviously, it's your thing, and it did help in the long run. But I was like, oh, this feels wrong to be
Right,
hearing
right.
things that I technically believe in.
Yeah.
Like that.
So to be honest, that is why I made this particular 5-part series, the guide to debunking creationism and stuff, because obviously when I'm going after Discovery Institute or very particular propaganda peddlers with this very specific harmful agenda, it's no holds barred, and I expose their fraudulence and I call them all the names that they totally deserve to be called. But then with the creationism very long video, it's very neutral. It's just talking about concepts and talking points, and I felt that would be very useful as a resource, because it is essentially absent of that kind of language. So check that one out if you haven't, or you can recommend it to people in your life.
Yeah, I started that one, and I do appreciate that. I noticed like this one is a lot more what's the word? I'm like less
Creationist friendly, let's say.
yeah. Because it's something I think about a lot, and I feel kind of, I don't want to say trapped, but it's difficult in the sense like, oh, I can't tell my own parents I believe in this thing because because it's literally seen as like you hate God. But the first thing I did, which helped me, was separate these two ideas. I watch evolutionary
Yeah.
biologists who strongly believe in God. It's not, they're not
Yeah.
necessarily entwined, but it's like I was saying, if you intertwine things into like a web, it makes it very hard because you try and say it's not associated. It's too late. It's been associated for 50 years in their heads, and here we are.
I think for such people, it's helpful to understand that there's a spectrum from fundamentalism to secularity that's very broad. You know what I mean? You can totally believe in God and even be a Christian specifically and accept all science. It requires that you accept scripture as allegorical and things, right? And you can't be a biblical literalist and accept science, but you can believe in the Christian God. You can even like believe in Jesus' resurrection and stuff, if you really kind of bend logic a little bit, but you can totally do the whole savior thing and all that stuff. It's just, there are gradations of religiosity. And you can accept science and still be religious. And in fact, many scientists, as you said, are religious. So that's helpful. It's not all or nothing kind of a situation,
Yeah, I think that, and I kind of like, even when I was a teenager, I started, specifically the first thing I started to break from is like conservatism, and I don't mean to dunk on it entirely, but like, a lot of the bigotry and stuff is kind of tied to it and like the evangelical Christianity. And I noticed, like, as a teenager, I'm like, okay, even if the Bible does say that being gay is a sin, why would I ever want to enforce that on all of America? And that kind of was the first thing, and I started to untangle the web. I guess I like the web allegory.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and then just how illogical it is to think that God would punish you for being a thing that He made you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sorry, my like I said, my thoughts are a little. This is something I've been mulling over for freaking forever, because I did do the worst thing when it came to like things like Noah's Ark and all that, is because I thought they were true, and then I thought, oh, actually, it seems like they might not be. There were a few years where I decided I was just not going to think about it, which is, I think, the worst thing you can ever do with something. And I think I wish I would have just decided, like, no, I need to learn about this and see, what's out there, because if it's true, I should believe in it, and if it's not, well,
it's brave. I mean, yeah, it's good on you for having the fortitude to do that.
I mean, the majority of the Christians and Catholics that I know, that I have asked, hey, have you read the whole Bible? They're like, no, just the New Testament. They have to ignore the Old Testament because it's just, you just can't believe in that God if you've read the Old Testament.
Yeah. It's
And
a
if you do,
completely
well,
different God. It's insane to me that people think that that's the same God. You have this vindictive, petty, genocidal maniac, and then like, just kidding, I love you. What are you
but
talking
his
about? This is the same guy?
nature.
Yeah. I
Right,
don't
yeah,
know.
and they're like, that's God. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm like when people say God's nature. I'm like, are we reading the
Which
same
one?
God's
Yeah.
nature?
I mean, that's why it's just, as an outsider to religion in general, it's always fascinated me, because I've always seen them as myths, always, just like Greek mythology or Norse mythology. It's never been anything but that to me. And being 6 or 7 years old and realizing that adults believe this is real, it blew my mind. It was probably the first time where I was like, oh, I'm smarter than a lot of adults, and I'm 6. That was a new experience for me. It's just like, I can't believe this. I don't know, but it's a different pathway. I was not indoctrinated with it, so that's
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's funny. I was doing a show with Godless Engineer about Christmas recently, and we were comparing that idea to, like, hey, believing in Jesus is like the same thing as believing in Santa Claus as a child.
Kind
Like,
of, yeah.
except you shut it off when you are, 12 maybe, but not the God
Hopefully
belief.
before 12. 12-year-old
Oh,
believing in Santa Claus. That's a little, yeah.
I did it. All right, Zach, did you have any other questions or comments?
I mean, not particularly. Thank you, Professor Dave, for your videos. But yeah, I just kind of want to throw that stuff out there.
You're very welcome. Yeah, thanks for the call.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Dave, do you have any parting words before I do the thing before we finish?
No, not much. I mean, yeah, this just never seems to go away, right? We just I yearn for, I'm never going to see it. I'm definitely going to die well before this could ever happen, if it ever does, but just a world without religion, or at the very least without fundamentalism, right? Maybe, like, obviously, religions, there will always be spirituality, and there may always be some kind of organized religion, but the arrow towards complete secularity is, we're going that way, but I don't know. It might go. We might go back to the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, with it. It really is just kind of the worst thing about humans is this propensity to believe this stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
I know, I completely agree, and I'm completely on board, and that it is wrong for it to be used as control over the populations.
Yeah, that guy was weird, man.
I know, that was really interesting, because I thought at first it was going somewhere, and I had a really good question for him, and then he just went off. Because I was gonna say, well, if morality has to come from a deity, what if I tell you that my morality comes from Allah? And what are you gonna say? Is that still valid, or is it only valid if it comes from your specific flavor of the God? Like one of the 18,000 God claims out there, right?
Yeah, and then blow his mind by telling him that that's actually the same God as the Abrahamic God. And
Right.
it's the same guy, I don't know, just interpreted differently.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm supposed to thank the Patreons, which is Paul Cammish, Karen Butcher, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Rion, D. Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Sunny Shell, and Phil Calderone. And I think there may be one for the subscribers. There we go. YouTube members include Kelley Laughlin, Logan Fisher, Cynthia McDonald, Infidel, Angela, Stop This Stupidity, and Tons of Mice. Okay, I think I got through all of them. So we appreciate both the Patreons and the YouTube members, the callers, the people that are in the live chat, every single one of you, call screeners, moderators, the people that push the buttons and do the things, so that I have to do is show up and put my face out there and talk. Yeah. And of course, our guest, Dave, thank you so very much. We hope to have you back sometime.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
We'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and everybody tune in next Sunday. It's going to be Justin and Trevor. I forgot his last name. Anyway, and call in and have the questions ready and have a good conversation. We'll see you next time.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.